When I applied to be a civil servant during the interview, I was asked one question. Hi, young Wong, how much is a catty of choice sum today? And I want to give you one piece of really important advice that never repeat what other people's views. I believe my first habit I would like to talk about is to know people from all walks of life. It has always been my desire to get to know people, not just people above you, so to speak, but people on the same level or even your subordinates. When I walk around the street in Central, for example, I may say hello to a lot of important people, big banks or bankers or very senior government servants. On the other hand, I often say hello to a doorman, but if I go into a public car park, I can say that in most of the public car parks in Central, I know the people behind the shop office. It's all very easy just to say hello to them and make their day. Say you just talk about the weather a bit. And make their day, because normally people are not very interested in this bill. All right, I pay the money and you give me the ticket and I'll leave. But why not make the day? But what is more subtle than that is that by doing so, you get to know people from a different, as it were, levels, because you must know people from all walks of life before you can become a really good lawyer who are actually down to earth, so to speak. I remember many years ago, a long time ago, when I applied to be a civil servant during the interview, I was asked one question. Hi, young Wong. How much is a catty of choice sum today? That was a very interesting question that happened. I did not know the exact price, but the price and name was very close to the market price at the time. And the interviewer was very impressed. So I said, why do you ask such a question? I'm applying to be a very senior civil servant job. So no, we want people to know what is really happening around you, not just in your profession. Another thing I often do is to analyze everything I hear, everything I read about, especially when you talk to a friend who likes to give you all these tall ideas, all his views on international affairs, on the economy, and you just listen, but at the same time, you analyze and verify, is it really true? That there is something young people must learn, how to deal with this situation when somebody keep talking away. Should you interrupt or should you barge in and then offer your own tuppence or your own personal views? Question is all depends on the occasion. Sometimes some people are excruciatingly long-winded and I lost my patience and just stop the person. I'm sorry, I think we should move on and talk about something else. But most of the time when people appear to be reasonably sensible, knowledgeable, but yet could be very opinionated, in a case like that, I listen. As soon as I have stopped the conversation, I will remember it. You probably will not be able to do it immediately, but say later in the day when you return to your office, when you return home, you try to get into the Google and search, hey, did that guy was just BS me or he was actually saying something of substance? And you verify. So like people say that trust but verify. And that is something you really need to know as a lawyer. And I want to give you one piece of really important advice that never repeat what other people's views, and worse still, adopt other people's views as if they were your own views. So next time when you meet a different group of people, you just regurgitate what you heard and adopt it as if it were your view. That could be extremely dangerous because you could easily be caught out. So do your homework, verify before you even consider repeating. The third question I would like to talk about is to read more, build up your common knowledge. That's something extremely important. In my career, I've been managing partner of two leading law firms, one city firm, one so-called Wall Street firm based in New York. As a managing partner, I need to interview a lot of lawyers, a lot of professional people. Very often, especially you will interview the younger generation, I'm sure they all would come well prepared. It's going to ask me questions on the recent finance, law, financial related, listing rules, and other legal knowledge. No, I often ask them things that happen in the commercial world that you don't have to be a lawyer to know. I have noticed that a lot of young lawyers, they tend to think that I'm going to specialize in family law or trust law, but more likely in an international firm we will do capital markets. So could be equity capital markets doing IPO, could be in corporate finance doing M&A. Then it's sort of, why should I want to know other things? I normally would get up in the morning and go straight to the business page, take a look at what's new, the columns. You won't have time to read a long article about how a Fortune 500 company is restructuring their company and moving on to new direction in that industry sector. You will not go into that, but at least you know who's who, which company is roughly doing what recently, and you should also remember the names of some leading international MNP, multinational MNC corporates. So you need to know this. Not I want you to drop names. Again, do not pretend that you're expert, because you'll be caught out and will be terribly embarrassed. But you have to at least know of the names. Your prospective employer will find, wow, this young man has taken an interest in this international affairs. Okay, you do not need to be an expert, but at least you show that you are interested and you are following. And take it outside work. Even after work, you're clutching a glass of beer, a gin and tonic. You talk to your friends. Then by mentioning something about this morning, did you notice that bank has gone into trouble, or that one is asset to someone? Just gently mention it. You make yourself a more interesting person. Again, there is always a limit. Do not overdo it. Just nonchalantly, nonchalant, as if you know it quite well, but you don't want to delve onto it in depth. That is my advice. Read more news, read more cases. You are a lawyer. Trust me, if you have time, always go to the law report to read the cases, not only in your practice area, but in other practice areas. I'm a finance lawyer, I'm a litigator. I don't touch family law, but I think it still helps if you read the cases, so that, for example, Mr. Justice and Attorney Angela Chan recently have the landmark case on PNA, this is proposed or prenuptial agreement. People again will find it very interesting. Wow, how do you do that? As a lawyer, we should know everything, right? Even though it's not my practice areas, I still need to know. So again, read your law book. And I have to give a commercial puff at this stage, is that I am the chairman of the editorial board of the Law Society Journal, monthly journal, the Hong Kong Lawyer, in which you have a section called Cases in Brief. So you just go through the cases in brief. It won't take you more than half an hour. Then you understand some of the important landmark cases happening during the previous month. Have a quick look. You don't need to memorize every minor detail. Just know what's happening. Always keep an open mind. Whenever you do whatever advice you're giving your client, whatever decision you have made, let's say you have advised your client how to structure a deal. Everything you do, always have a second thought. Sometimes we are so easy to be overly confident, especially the worst situation is you have made similar decisions before and you think that this one must be correct, right? Not necessarily so. I remember as a student when I lived in England, I talked to my friends' families, right? Their parents fought at the Second World War. And we talk about servicemen who had to work on a bomb like Lancaster, a heavy bomb aircraft. It's very sad. In those days, you need volunteers to serve on a bomb because it's extremely dangerous. Your survival chance is very low. The other service is to work in a submarine. Again, you have to be volunteers because it's considered to be a really tough job. And then I was told that if you could, during the height of the Second World War, if you survive 3 missions, you send out to bomb somewhere in Europe over Germany and you return. If you survive 3, they will grant you, meaning they don't need you to do it anymore. You give somebody else a chance and you will become a trainer in a way, right? Only 3. It sounds so horrible. Why 3 missions? Is that most people get killed on the 3rd mission. You know what? The first one, you would go out there, you have absolutely no idea what you're going to expect. You're sitting there, you're praying, hope you're like a sitting duck, right? Waiting. But you follow instruction. Whatever you do, you go there, you get to the park, get to the front, then you drop all the bombs and you return, things like that. Then the first time you may make mistake, but most likely you survive because you follow instructions. The decision made by your superior, you follow. The second, normally is the safest, they say. Because second, you become an experienced bomber. So when you go out, you knew what happened last time. So this time you know exactly the better way to do, and so it's very, very safe. You can safely return home after your mission. The third one is the most dangerous one. Normally people get killed, it is the 3rd mission because they think now they are very experienced, and often then they take unnecessary risks and they make mistakes. So sorry to have sidetracked it, but I like telling a story. Right? I don't need anyone to prompt me to tell a story. That's my character. But coming back to our point, so when you make a decision, the most dangerous thing is that you have made the same decision a couple of times before, and this time you think, say, come on, a deal is a deal. This is how an acquisition is structured, and I'm sure this will be correct. Very often, just because you think nothing will go wrong. Murphy's Law, right? This is when mistakes arise. So never trust your so-called instinct and never be overly confident. Always think twice. Once people hear about this, I guarantee you that will be the end of your credibility. Sometimes the senior partners will come back to the office on a Monday morning. Hey, tell me, is there any gossip in the law office? Anyone sleeping with anyone? It's getting very boring. We need some gossip.